It's Monday, which means that it's time to take a look at yet another solo Pokemon challenge. Today, we are looking at a Pokemon that you can find within the first couple of minutes of playing this game, and that is Rattata. Rattata is a Pokemon that I think a lot of people really honestly sleep on. I totally get it. When you look at the early stage of the game, you're not thinking, oh, I'm going to capture this thing and it's really going to take me far. It's going to get me through maybe the first couple of gyms, but eventually I'm going to ditch it for something better. That's what your rival certainly does in red and blue. But I'm here to tell you that Rattata is actually so much better than you give him credit for. I mean, for a pre-evolved Pokemon, his base stats are not terrible. 30 HP, 56 attack, 35 defense, speed 72, special is 25. That part's not great. But as you can see, even in this first fight, it does not take much to take down the rival. Granted, he gets a pretty lucky hit against us, but we could have taken that for, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, no problem. Already, Rattata also hits heavier than anyone else. Not by a lot, let's be very clear, but the best that we've seen thus far has been starting at level 5 on 11 attack base. Rattata has started at 12. So already he is just one step ahead of everyone else that he's been going against in these little challenges, and where some of them will eventually have some separation because they will finally start getting their special moves and something that will separate them from Rattata. In the early game, when most Pokemon are using things like Tackle, Pound, etc., Rattata is going to hit a little bit harder, and so that should get him to those next stages a little bit quicker. So for my challenge here today, part of my pathing and my selection has been that I am going to blow through Viridian, and I'm going to fight every single trainer here, get as much experience as I can for Rattata here in the early game. Then I'm going to go back a little bit, go back to Viridian City, and I'm going to fight the rival, the optional rival fight over on Route 22. I just think that once again, that extra experience is going to be important. Plus, there's not really a specific team that the rival could use that I think really changes the run for Rattata, so it kind of doesn't really matter if we win or lose. But if we do lose, we can just blackout train a little bit there, get some extra experience, because like I said, there's not really much that can change, at least for the rival, that's going to make a major impact on Rattata's gameplay. Now, let's talk about that gameplay in the terms of the moveset, because that is the thing that I think really sets Rattata apart, right? We've talked about this a little bit with other Pokemon having some variety, but as you can see on the right-hand side there really is a lot of variety in the types of moves that Rattata can learn. Now, obviously, in the beginning of the game, there aren't many options. All that he has is his regular learn set. The things that he can get through level up. There are no TMs until after Brock, but once we start finding those TMs, you're going to find that really almost the entirety of his moveset is going to become something that is entirely learned through those TMs that you see there. The big thing that I think is really going to be important for us to look at is we learn Hyper Fang at level 14. That move is going to stay with us for basically for forever. Hyper Fang is actually a really great move, especially with the stab boost that he gets. It just means that Rattata can hit for so much damage whenever that move lands, and so it's going to be a pretty crucial part to this entire run. He's also got, like I said earlier, a lot of TMs that are going to be very important for type coverage and for the ability to move quickly through this world. If that TM is not for a normal type move, there is a strong chance that you will see it in this run. I'm going to go ahead and spoil it and just say you will not see Rest and you will not see Toxic. So the Psychic and the Poison move, not really something that I'm going to be looking at, but I will be taking a very good look at the Water, the Ice, the Electric, and the Ground moves. The big thing here is that Water Gun will carry us through a lot of the tunnels and any kind of rock or ground Pokemon, but it will be replaced very early on with Bubble Beam just because it does the same thing but just more damage. So Bubble Beam will be pretty crucial once we beat Misty. That will be a move that you'll see for a very long time in this run. Thunder is very inaccurate, so I will be sticking with Thunderbolt. It also kind of is just a thing of looking at those stats and looking at the base stats mostly Rattata, the big thing that he does lack is special attack, and 2 of the moves that we are going to be learning through TMs are going to be special attacks, so we're not going to really want to rely on them heavily. It's just going to give us that type coverage that we need. Now, to take a quick pause in the move conversation, we are stepping into this fight with the rival. We're getting that optional training in. It is so easy at level 11. We end up going to level 12. We have 2 more levels until we get Hyper Fang, and then that will put us at a place where we can then go up against Brock. Since this is yellow, his Pokemon do not have anything like Defense Curl for Geodude, which means that at the end of the day, we can still hit him for a fair amount of damage even if he resists our moves, especially if he flinches. It means that we don't take that much damage, and as you can see, we're hitting Onix pretty heavily, honestly. At an attack of 26, that's pretty damn good to go up against Brock here. We're hitting him pretty heavily, and as you can see, we get down to 1 health. By habit, I see Bide, and I go for Tail Whip, and then I go, wait a minute, I just need to use Quick Attack. So I use it, we hit him, and Brock is done. 11 minutes isn't exactly where I want to be, but it's not terrible. I will take it. Here in Mount Moon, you can see me picking up the Water Gun TM like I mentioned earlier. It is going to be something that we use for a while. Tackle no longer serves a purpose, so therefore it is the move that I replace. Now, we do not yet have access to the TM for Dig, so fights like this and the first Rocket fight, which we'll see in just a moment here, are going to be tougher just in terms of the fact that I don't have anything that's super effective, but if you're level 20, well, you saw how that last fight went. Hyper Fang can really cruise through most people in this challenge. I've said it before and I'll say it again. I think that this is a very slept on Pokemon, and so therefore I am very excited to see him just cruising through Mount Moon and on his way to the next rival fight and the next gym leader. And sometimes I do the rival first, but I actively felt that Misty was obtainable here in the first 20 minutes. So just under level 22, Rattata is going to go up against the Staryu and get a little bit of a boost there, just in time to get 1 Hyper Fang off. It doesn't do a great amount, but a critical hit nearly kills Starmie, and so 1 quick attack and bam, easy peasy. The critical hit was pretty crucial to that fight. I don't know how easily we make it through that without it, but I'm going to take it. Like I said, we're here in under 20. Feels good. And so after a quick heal, we go up to the Nugget Bridge and we're going to take on the rival here. With 2 badges under our belt and at level 22, doesn't really feel all that scary or concerning. Oh, of course. Yet again, another example of a time where I mentioned a level specifically against the rival just to immediately level up within 2 seconds of me mentioning the level. I really got to start looking at where my experience is before I say a level out loud. At some point, I'll learn my lesson. Speaking of learning lessons, the rival learns his as we put him in his place and we move on, and we are going to finish all of Nugget Bridge, then cruise right through Route 25, and of course go meet up with Bill, turn him back into a human, and therefore he will give us the ticket to SS Anne, which is our next destination. However, we do have one little obstacle in our way between there, and it's not really so much of an obstacle as it is a thing that we are just going to do and have a new thing added to this run. And that is, of course, going against the Thieving Rocket. We are going to get the TM for Dig. We're going to instantly put it in the moveset, and this is going to carry us from here until the end of the run. You see, we were talking earlier about the effectiveness of moves like Thunderbolt or Blizzard or Bubble Beam. All of those are special moves. However, Dig is going to be a move just like Hyper Fang that's going to use the benefit of a higher attack point. Since it's a physical move, both Hyper Fang and Dig will hit so hard. I mean, it's just a beautiful thing to watch this little rat steamroll everything in front of it. And if you don't believe me, keep watching because there's going to be a lot of opportunities to showcase just how mighty this mouse is. In fact, let's go ahead and showcase this against yet another mouse, or perhaps a rat, or whatever the hell Raichu is supposed to actually be. Lieutenant Surge uses both an X-Speed and a Growl, but Dig hits him once and he is done before I even finish this sentence. Good lord. Now, it does take me a little over a minute to realize that I just beat Lieutenant Surge and I got the TM for Thunderbolt, and I did not remember to teach it. So I replaced Quick Attack. It's no longer really serving us at this point. Hyper Fang is the only normal type move that I really need. It hits for way more damage anyway, regardless of if someone resists the move or not. Plus, it has the option to flinch. So that's really all we need. At this point, let's get the type coverage onto the team, which gives us the ability to roll every trainer all the way up until the rock tunnel. And that is where we're going to start facing a little bit more challenge. Now, granted, the moves we have give us the type coverage, but we are going to start seeing a lot of the Pokemon that, because our special's not great, all the special moves that we'll need to use outside of Dig, because of course that is a physical attack, anytime we need to use Bubble Beam or Thunderbolt, there's a strong chance that we will not have the amount of damage in order to one-tap. It is going to take 2 hits for basically everything here, which does mean that we need to make sure that we're keeping an eye on how much PP we're using for everything, because if we're not one-tapping, it's going to take more hits, obviously, to get through everything, which means that we're depleting it a little bit faster, which might mean that we need to run back to the Poké Center a couple of times. So far, it's only happened once. I've only had to do one, just because I ran out of every move that was going to be effective. But luckily, we do it just in time, because while this trainer is not that big of a deal, we're going to be able to Hyper Fang our way right through. Immediately after this junior trainer, we are going to face a huge battle. Now, we skip over learning Super Fang there because it only does 50% of current damage. We don't need that. We just need to hit as hard as possible. Now, speaking of hitting as hard as possible, we're going up against a trainer known as the Self-Destructing Hiker, and well, maybe that wasn't as big of a challenge as I was expecting. I mean, even with a pretty low special, just shows that the type coverage really goes a long way. And speaking of a long way, there is a rather large time jump here, but it's because we make our way from Lavender Town all the way over to Celadon, and then we get through all of the HQ here, and this type coverage is just mopping the floor with the Team Rocket base. At this point, it feels like nothing can really stop this rat. At level 36, with Dig and Hyper Fang alone, I kind of feel as though I could basically run the entire game just with those 2 moves. So the fact that we get any kind of other type coverage, pretty great icing on the cake. Now, we're going to go up against the first team of Giovanni's. Obviously, the 2 rock and ground Pokemon are easy to dispose of. Persian is a little tougher. I'm using the Bubble Beam. I'm not 100% sure why. I guess I was just hoping that they were going to use Payday a few times. But at the end of the day, even with spamming an odd choice of attack, I get right through it. Giovanni 1, done. Typically, I do a fun little edit here in the gym, but of course, I did have an issue where I looked away for a second and Rattata evolved after a fight. So I had to go backwards a little bit, and I got a frustrating reset that was just literally user error. So I decided to just go ahead and skip to the Erica fights, especially because it's not going quite as well as I was expecting. This is the first time where Rattata has actually run into an issue. The biggest reason here is that, at least with Tangela, there's not really any major coverage that we have, and Hyper Fang is not really doing quite enough to help out. And of course, I used 3 of my 4 PP for the move Hyper Fang, and it doesn't really matter because eventually I end up dying to the poison. All right, so that's not going quite as well as I was hoping. It's very weird that I'm being walled off in this way right here. I kind of thought I would have been doing okay. I go in and then I do skip the fact that I try a third time. I have the exact same issue. I then heal and I come back and I just do the same thing that I just did. And all of a sudden I'm getting the critical hits. I'm getting the damage range that I need. I end up using the exact same amount of PP that I had to begin with. So I didn't really need to go to the Poké Center, but maybe it just changed my luck. I don't know. Something changed, and on that reset there, we get the win. So we had 3 resets at this gym. I guess technically 4, but 3 with Erica, and again, 1 because of user error and accidentally Rattata evolve. This is unfortunate because I was really thinking that this might be the run that I do where I have no resets, or at least not get a single reset until the final 4, but either way, we heal up after that gym battle and we go to the Pokemon Tower. We are going up against the 4th rival battle here. Because of type coverage and because of the types of moves that some of these Pokemon spam, I am able to make very quick work of this team. The Fearow is useless. The others, because they haven't evolved, they don't really have anything dangerous, so we get to move forward, and we will show, as always, just the fact that sometimes the ghosts are a big deal, they're a big challenge, but if you have a move like Dig, you are fine. So we will make a lot of experience here by going through and fighting every single one of these trainers. Maybe it's not time-wise the most ideal thing, but because we do have a move that is super effective, it means that we are able to move through this very small, concentrated area with a lot of characters all in one central space. So it's a lot of experience very quickly. I really don't think it adds that much time to my run overall, especially because most of them are pretty much on the way anyway. I only go out of my way for a couple of them, and if I am going out of my way, it's only by a couple of steps. Therefore, Pokemon Tower is a little bit of a vital piece of this run, and I think that it's worth it just because of the fact that I do think Rattata will be able to complete this at a lower level, not by a lot, but I definitely think it's going to be considerably lower than a Pokemon like Pidgey. I think Rattata could really improve upon that time, and I think that we can give Charmander a run for his money today. And that is going to be potentially difficult because at this point we're about halfway through the game. In fact, I would argue we're a little bit less than halfway through the game at this point, and we are just about to hit the 1-hour marker. So we are going to have to step up our game and go a little bit faster, although because of how far we are leveled and because of the fact that we are going to start hitting for even more damage, I do believe that we'll start one-hitting, and we'll probably move quicker through a place like Silph Co. I imagine that a place like Giovanni's gym, or honestly even Blaine's gym, I do think will be pretty quick. Cinnabar Island as a whole will be very fast. The biggest thing that's going to take time is Silph Co. Getting through Sabrina, because I kind of think that she'll end up being an issue just because Rattata has such a low special. And then, honestly, really, we just got to get to the Elite Four. I think once we're there, with the current moveset and, of course, one small change that we'll make near the end, I think that we could clock in at a pretty good time. It just means that we have to stay on top of it and really can't take many mistakes. In fact, almost have to be flawless, almost have to be perfect. So here's hoping this little rat can pull it out. Now, obviously, throughout that whole little monologue, we also had a time skip of about 7 minutes because we skipped all of the bike trail from Celadon all the way down to Fuchsia City. Because they are all poison Pokemon, I just kind of feel like at this point we now know it's just going to be Dig. It's going to be Dig. It's going to be Dig, maybe a Hyper Fang, but almost always Dig. So because of that, I've skipped ahead all the way to Koga's gym. There is still a lot of Psychic and Poison, which the Psychic stuff still kind of weirds me out. It is a Poison gym. I don't know why we've made some of the choices that we've made in this game. But we are approaching 30 years. Also, ignore the fact that I missed the door for quite a while. But it's been nearly 30 years, so I guess it's a little too late to make certain complaints. Okay, Koga time. One of those big changes that I was just sort of alluding to is Koga's team, actually. At the end of the day, he's kind of more of a bug gym leader in this generation, or at least in this game, rather, because earlier in the generation, he had actual, like, true blue poison Pokemon. We're talking your Weezings, your Mucks, etc. And so here we are going against 4 different bugs. However, in his defense, they do end up poisoning me, and because of evasion, yeah, all right, he gets me. Okay, fine, I admit defeat a little bit, sort of. So I go in here, and what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to use a couple of my rare candies. Only 2. We're going to save some for the end of the game, but I think it's important to use some now just to get us to level 50 so that we're on a pretty even playing field with his strongest Pokemon. Just because, again, he starts at 44 and he just gets progressively higher in level as the fight goes, which means that if you're not hitting them with one shot the first time, you're definitely not by the end of the fight. So this way we get just a little bit extra damage on our Pokemon here. That being said, we miss quite a few times and the poison damage is not great, but because he uses an X attack, odd choice, he could have easily done me right then and there. Okay, well, we get the badge. I'm never going to complain about someone using an X item to hand me the win. So good job, Rattata. We move on. After our little excursion into the Safari Zone, we pick up Silph, and of course we pick up the Gold Teeth to exchange with the Warden for the HM for Strength. Therefore, we now have all the HMs that we need to continue through this game. No more of the item searching. We have balanced our bag, and we have gone on to the dojo. Now, typically I do one of those little fancy edits that I usually do to just sort of showcase, okay, yeah, here, boom, 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 boom. We fought, we won. However, I am showing Rattata kick the butt of this dojo, if nothing else because of one of the few things that I had mentioned about the typing for Rattata early on in this video. Rattata is a normal type Pokemon, nothing else, just straight up normal. And because of that, that means that he is not super effective against anybody, but it does mean that he can hit pretty hard. However, it means that he has basically no real weakness in this game. I mean, yes, because he's a normal type, he is weak to fighting moves, but fighting moves are very rare in this game, and there aren't many, and most of them don't really do that much damage, in my opinion. Something like submission and stuff like that might, but of course, those are also, again, very rare, and they hit with so much recoil, it's usually not a very, worthwhile move. So, yeah, I would say Rattata coming into a fighting dojo and just biting every one of these karate chopping and punching and kicking guys, I would say it's pretty impressive for a guy his size. Biting above his weight. And so here we are at Silph Co. We are doing a couple of the optional fights, usually just if I think that they give us the best kind of experience, or sometimes I want an item, like I go ahead and get the Machoke rare candy there. We do have to fight this guy in order to get the card key, which is the key item, that you need in order to access pretty much everything in this building. Both the final fight against the boss and, of course, fighting against your rival is only accessible through getting to certain teleport pads available after you get the key. So we are now going up against Rival 5, as many people call him, the Rival Fivel. And honestly, Ninetales didn't go down as easily as I was expecting, but that's okay because we do get through Ninetales with really minimal changes to anything. Our defense is a little low, but because we are faster than the Jolteon, it does not matter. The double kick does not land, and we do this fight on our first try. Now we can go ahead and just go straight into the Jesse and James fight. Sometimes I secretly and sneakily heal there before I continue on with my narration or anything like that, but we don't need to do that today. Today we can just instantly go into this fight. And if this continues to be the level of damage that they're going to do, yep, honestly, we could probably just go do this next fight immediately back to back as well. I'm going to save just in case, but man, I'm telling you, we're kind of cruising along. It's looking pretty good for our little rat friend here. And so therefore, we will go up against the second iteration of Giovanni's team. It is starting to get a little worse because we are seeing a couple different ways of double kick being a move that can hit us both with the front end and the back end of this team with Nidorino and Nidoqueen. However, we have the move set to avoid pretty much everything. Now, Nidoqueen does get a double kick off. This is big, but it's not big enough. It doesn't do that much damage, especially when you're leveled above them. So we get to then dig our way out of here, and we are on to the next part of this challenge. And that part is, of course, fighting Sabrina. Sabrina can be very tough because she starts off with an Abra that has Flash that lowers your accuracy. So what you really want to do is you want to just one-shot it, and then you want to yeah, exactly that. You want to just one-shot. Ooh, okay. Well, you want to one-shot really everything, but if you can't one-shot Alakazam, hopefully she doesn't use a devastating move, and you can just do that. And then you just sort of show that sometimes Sabrina not so scary. Sometimes you show that Sabrina not so bad. Okay, no problem. We defeat her, and we're going to move on to Cinnabar Island, which, as always, I'm going to skip all of the stuff of the motion within that island. That tile floor is really difficult to look at 4x speed, so we're just going to go ahead and skip immediately to Blaine, who is honestly very challenging. I know that the start of this does not look like that, but because he's using Reflect and everything like that, oh man. Yeah, that critical hit was big. That was a big hit, actually. Okay. Well, we got a reset there. Hopefully this time we can get something else going on. Reflect is kind of a bad thing for us to have to deal with. And it's interesting that he's going for that. I mean, obviously, nothing that he has is super effective against us. So he's just sort of randomly going through his moves. He does get the burn, but because we do dig, he does not get another attack and we get to move forward. So here I have something very funny happen. I just got out of a fight in the Viridian City gym, and I knew that I needed to heal before going to fight Giovanni. But somehow within that time, I just remembered leaving that gym and healing. So I was going, all right, let's save the game. Let's look around. Let's kind of get like a good angle maybe for the edit. And then I'm going to go forward and do the fight. What is happening? Why have I not fought? Why can't I fight the rival? I open up the page and realize, of course, it's because I don't have the 8th gym. I just went to the gym, but I did not finish it. So I still have to fight Giovanni. I don't know how my brain made that little mix up, but it was kind of too funny and too embarrassing to not showcase. So there you have it. Either way, I still make it back to Giovanni with plenty of time on the clock. We could probably still get a sub Charmander time. I'm getting very excited about this. What I'm not excited about is how much that first hit is. I don't know why I used Bubble Beam. I must have just been clicking too quickly. But either way, I'm going to get in there and oh gosh, okay, thank goodness he's using Guard Spec. We are in dangerous territory here. Honestly, at any second, one of these Pokemon could end up killing. Yeah, that's about what I expected. Okay, we'll take a reset there. I gotta say, this Rhydon and Rock Slide, I don't know if he's ever missed. I can't remember a single time so far in any of my runs where he has missed. Either way, we do start this one off better by one-shotting the Doug Trio. That being said, we then, of course, lose a lot of ham. Okay, usually I just cut a blooper and I will come back and I'll do another take. Losing a lot of ham is maybe one of the funniest things I've said in one of these videos, so I will leave that entire bit in. It doesn't matter anyway because we get a reset. I have never called HP ham before. That is new. Okay, so looking at this, it looks like we're like really close to the kind of damage that we need, but not quite there. So I'm going to go ahead and go up against one of the only people that I have not fought in this gym. There are 2 people total, I believe, that I have not fought. So we're going to go up against them because maybe, just maybe, we can get just a little extra XP and either level up right before the battle or perhaps right after the Doug Trio. I think 1 level could, weirdly enough, make all the difference. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. So, you know, it's just a gamble that I'm willing to take, especially if Rock Slide is going to be such a big deal. Granted, we did not die to Rock Slide this last time, but because we weren't moving through quickly enough, surely if that Nidoking had not hit me, yeah, I think for sure the Rock Slide would. So we're going to use 2 rare candies after getting through that. So at this point, we only have a couple left at our disposal. So we're going to be very careful about all of our moves from here on out. At this point, I only have a couple more that I can pick up. I can only pick up 2 more along the way, and I can always backtrack to get one that I did forget to get in Fuchsia City, but maybe we won't need it. Perhaps we won't need to backtrack, which would be good for our time here. I'm keeping an eye on that time. I'm still thinking we've got it. I just got to be really careful about the moves that I select and the order and making sure that we get through this. Ooh, okay, good. So far, we are getting to the 3rd Pokemon, having taken no damage. Double Kick, again, is super effective, but it's a very weak move. So far, Rattata can tank them pretty good, but he's getting really low. It's getting really close, man. I don't know if the extra levels are really going to change to... Oh, he used a guard spec. He used a guard spec. Of course, it's Giovanni. Of course he's going to use a guard spec. Giovanni could honestly be such a brutal gym leader if he didn't throw the match every time with guard spec. I'm sure if I go back and check the footage for someone like maybe, let's say, Squirtle, or who knows, maybe even Bulbasaur, it's very possible that really the guard spec was not a thrown situation. They probably actually cruised right through that, and I just don't remember. But, you know, I feel like it's more times than not. Either way, this time when we go back to Route 22, there is an actual rival fight, this time waiting for us. So we are able to get through the Sand Slash. He doesn't have any devastating moves just yet because he's not a champion. So far, he's still just a rival. So Solar Beam is going to do a lot of damage, but not enough to knock me out. We are paralyzed, and that is going to put us at a lot slower than everyone else, which means I am at a disadvantage with not being able to hit first and potentially one-hit everyone, especially when a Pokemon like Kadabra can get off a move like Reflect. It's not great. Jolteon could have done so much more if he still had Double Kick, but he doesn't. He only has Pin Missile and the electric moves. I don't really know why he's going for Pin Missile. I know it's probably just like the randomization of the moves since nothing is super effective, but usually the AI knows that a move like Thunder could just kill me. Either way, he hits the Pin Missile and it gives me the ability to finish him off. And now we are on our way to the Elite Four. And honestly, Victory Road is not a problem at all. There was not a single challenge on that route. So we make it to Indigo Plateau. We use all of the remaining rare candies that we have. And this is a crucial thing to think about right now because usually we use the rare candies in the late game to prevent leveling up after doing some badge boosts. But Rattata does not have any badge boosting moves. So everything that we have is just nothing but attack, attack, attack. So therefore, just being at the highest possible level that we can be at any given point is the only advantage that we really have. So we're just going to have to do exactly that and go on the offensive and try to get through these fights as quickly and efficiently as we possibly can. That sort of thing, though, that is what you don't love to see. Okay. I'm going to do a reset. I'm not going to do any blackout training or anything like that. I do think that we can just get through this. It just has to be the correct circumstances, at least in some of these fights. I think, again, Agatha won't really be an issue. Lorelei, honestly, can be quite difficult if you're using pre-evolved Pokemon. Any of these first evolution stage Pokemon, I think, really struggle just because overall their stats aren't quite there. So yeah, we take another reset, this time at the hands of Cloyster. Cloyster is a pretty brutal Pokemon. It's one of the reasons why it ends up on your opponent's team, depending on the type of team layout that they have. So going back into Lorelei specifically, we are trying to utilize the fact that usually she goes for rest on the second move. We are getting through the first two, no damage. Because Slowbro is not going to go for an offensive move on his first time, we are once again getting through another Pokemon and then another Pokemon without taking any damage. The fact that Lapras goes for Body Slam instead of something a little bit more heavy duty, again, is just the fact that the AI is randomly selecting through the moves since none of them are super effective. Although usually, like I mentioned earlier, they do typically know what moves will do more damage. But either way, we get the win, and so we get to move on to Bruno. Now, Bruno doesn't have a team that's typically too dangerous. It depends on the kind of Pokemon you have. Obviously, Rock Slide was bad for Pidgey. Rattata takes way more damage from Onix than I was expecting. If anything else, it's just the fact that Dig did not one-shot. But we're going up against Hitmonchan, Hitmonlee, and Machamp, all who could do some hefty damage. The second Onix goes down easy. Machamp flinches, and so therefore we 2-hit the Machamp. Okay, could have gone really bad, but it didn't, so we move on. Now, we saw a preview for this section back at the Pokemon Tower. As you know, because of the fact that these ghost types are also part poison, it means that a move like Dig can just do devastating damage against them. Ghosts should have been kind of overpowered in this generation, but both between glitches and also the dual type, really the ghosts aren't that great. And for a normal type, usually they can't hit me. However, as you can see, I do receive a lot of very devastating damage at the hands of Dream Eater. That is the only ghost type move that I can actually be hit by. But it doesn't matter because eventually I wake up at the clutch moment, and so we get to dig our way through their team and win. Now we are going to real fast teach Rattata Blizzard over top of Bubble Beam. At this point, Bubble Beam has served its purpose, so we teach this move instead. 07 in the chat for Bubble Beam, and let's move on. You see, we need Blizzard because Thunderbolt is going to be super effective against Gyarados, but Blizzard is the only thing that Rattata can learn that is super effective against the Dragon types. Dragons are only weak in this generation against Dragon and Ice. The only Dragon move is Dragon Rage, which only does 40 damage. We also can't learn that one, so Blizzard is the only option that we have. Aerodactyl is going to go down to some Thunderbolts, and so, once again, Dragonite, along with the Dragonairs, get one shot by Blizzard. Blizzard, pretty damn good move in this situation. The fact that it's 90% accuracy is pretty crazy. I think it's a little too high for this generation, but at the end of the day, I'm not going to complain about it because it really helped me in this situation. So we heal up, we save up. I'm not even going to cut any of that because I think it gives me the perfect amount of time to then say, let's go get this rival fight and let's finish this battle below Charmander's time. We start off with a Blizzard, it one-shots the Sand Slash. Then we one-shot the Alakazam. We're going to use Blizzard again. It's not super effective enough to kill Exeggutor in one hit, but it does freeze him, and that means that we get some free hits in there because he cannot thaw out in this generation unless I use a fire move. Rattata doesn't know any. So, we 2 Thunderbolt the Cloyster. We're going to use Dig against Ninetales, who did use Quick Attack to get some little chippies in there, but we then take him down and we get to Dig against Jolteon. It doesn't matter if we're too slow because guess what? We have defeated the champion and we have done it 6 seconds short of a 2-minute gap between Rattata and Charmander. I realize that's a weird way of describing that, but that is 1:54 seconds faster than Charmander. Really, really impressive timing, and we did it at just level 72 with only 10 resets. A couple of them were kind of user error or a little bit of bad luck. I think that we probably could have done this with maybe 5 resets, let's say, just to kind of give ourselves a little bit of grace, because RNG and personal mistakes are always going to happen no matter what. But honestly, I feel great about this run. I feel great about this Pokemon. The move pool is great. For being a under-evolved Pokemon, pretty good stats overall. Yeah, Rattata, kind of a powerhouse. Really loved this episode, really loved this challenge. And I would love to eventually see if Rattata can withstand the test of time. Can Rattata do this kind of performance in future generations? I don't really know yet, but we're not at those generations just yet. So I will see you all next week for another solo challenge in Pokemon Yellow. I am hoping that the episode will still be up on time on Mondays. It is going to be my birthday weekend, so depending on what family and friends want to do, it could push this episode back a little bit. So just be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications, and you will see if that video goes up on Monday or, worst case scenario, Tuesday. See you all next week.